Jazakumullah khairan, brothers, for your patience. Bismillah wa alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. So Shaykh Abu Uthman Al Anjaree Hafidhahullah, he's asked me to read for you brothers and translate some of these words of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and then he will join us to give some comments inshallah, and he might ask some of you brothers what you've understood from it. So pay attention inshallah. So Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said, the truth of the matter regarding the statements that might be kufr, that might be disbelief. There are certain statements that someone could make that would be considered kufr, considered disbelief. So he said the reality of this affair, of these type of statements, is that we say in a general sense that the person who has made these statements has disbelieved, right? Whoever says such and such, then he is a disbeliever. This is completely in a general sense. But as for a specific individual, the person that says this, we do not rule upon that person that they have disbelieved, all the way up until the proofs are established upon him in regarding this situation that he would have disbelieved because of that statement. All right, and this will become more clear as we continue. So he said, continuing, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, indeed, it is authentic from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith in which the people said, in which the man said, the hadith in which the man said to his family. Okay, this is the well-known hadith that a man said to his family, if I were to die, then burn my body and then spread out my ashes. No, he said, burn my body, grind me up, basically mix up the ashes, and then spread out the ashes across the land. For indeed by Allah, meaning he swore by Allah, if Allah was to catch me, then indeed he would punish me with a great punishment that he has not punished anyone from among the creation. So this is what this man said to his family. He was so fearful because of his sins from his evil deeds. He said to his family that when I die, burn me, grind up the ashes or mix up the ashes and then spread them out across the land, so that Allah would not be able to bring him back and resurrect him. This was the meaning of what he said. So Allah ordered the earth to give back what it had taken, meaning these ashes. Allah ordered that the earth give back these ashes of this man, and that the sea gives back what of his ashes had reached and mixed into the sea. And then Allah asked him, what had led you to what you have done? Meaning, what led you to asking your family to do this to your body? So the man answered his Lord by saying, out of fear of you, my Lord. So Allah the Most High forgave him. So Allah the Most High forgave him. So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he's explaining now that what is apparent in this hadith is that this man, he had clear doubt about Allah's ability to resurrect him in the afterlife. Clear? This man, because he thought that he could escape from Allah by having his body burned after death and having his ashes spread out, he had doubt in Allah's capability to resurrect him in the hereafter. Indeed, he believed that he wouldn't be brought back, and that Allah the Most High would not be able to hold him to account if he was to burn his body. And Allah still forgave him. Allah still forgave him. So I hope this example is clear that even though this man, he committed disbelief, his belief in Allah was deficient in believing that Allah would not have the ability to bring him back. And he thought that he could escape from the resurrection in this way. So that was disbelief. But even though he had that disbelief, because of whatever excuses he had out of his fear of Allah or his ignorance in the true capabilities of Allah, Allah still forgave him. So Ibn Taymiyyah continued by saying the declaring of the Jahmiyyah, the sect of the Jahmiyyah, that to declare the Jahmiyyah to be disbelievers, this was well known from the Imams of the Salaf. Except Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, he did not make takfir of the specific individuals from among them. So from the examples of some of them who were the wulatul umur, the rulers at that time, that used to say the statement of the Jahmiyyah, claiming that the Quran was created and that Allah will not be seen in the hereafter. And other than that, from statements of disbelief. And those rulers were calling the people to that. And they were testing the people based upon that. And they were punishing and torturing the people if they did not answer that dawah from them, if they did not answer that call or that order to make these statements of disbelief. So if they had the person prisoner, then they would not release them up until they made the same statement agreeing with the statement of the Jahmiyyah that the Quran is created, and other than that, from these statements of disbelief. And they did not used to give any wealth of the state, any of the state that the Muslim government had at that time, they did not used to give to anyone except the people that agreed with those statements of the Jahmiyyah. And due to that, even that situation that the rulers had that belief and that they were ordering and forcing the people to commit these statements of disbelief, Imam Ahmad radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, Imam Ahmad still used to make dua that Allah has mercy upon those men. And he used to seek forgiveness for them. And Imam Ahmad, why did he used to do that? Because of his knowledge that the truth has not become clear to those rulers. They did not realize that what they were doing was going against what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. But rather, they weren't doing that intentionally, but rather they were misinterpreting, they were falling into error, and they were blind following the people who said that before them. So that's what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said about that situation of how Imam Ahmad rahimahullah dealt with the rulers at that time that were forcing the people. Not only did they themselves make statements of disbelief, but they were forcing the people and torturing the people until they would also make those statements of disbelief also. And then he brings another quote, meaning Shaykh Al Anjaree Hafidhahullah, he brings another quote of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, a statement that clarifies his manhaj in this affair. He clarifies Ibn Taymiyyah's methodology, where Ibn Taymiyyah said, due to this issue of the difference between takfir in a general sense and takfir al-mu'ayyan, takfir of a specific individual. So he said, due to this, I used to say that the Jahmiyyah, from those extreme Sufis that believed that Allah entered into his creation, and those that negated Allah's names and attributes, and negated that Allah is above his throne. So Ibn Taymiyyah used to say to these type of Jahmiyyah, he used to say to them that if I made statements like you all are like your statements, then indeed I would have disbelieved. Ibn Taymiyyah is saying this about himself, that if I made statements like you all, like you Jahmiyyah, then I would have become a disbeliever. Because I know that your statement is kufr, is disbelief. But you all, because you all are making the statement, I don't believe that you have disbelieved. I don't believe that you have left Islam, because you are ignorant. And this is the way that Ibn Taymiyyah used to speak to their scholars and their judges and their rulers. So this was his stance, rahimahullah, Ibn Taymiyyah, that he said, if I was to agree with your statements, then yes, he said, I would be a disbeliever because I know the falsehood of what you're saying. But I don't consider you to be disbelievers because you all are ignorant. Now, so that's the end of what Shaykh had mentioned or quoted from Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and I'm just going to connect him inshallah so we can benefit from him.
Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. Amma ba'd. اختصارا للوقت وأعتذر، ولكني أحببت أن لا أنقطع وأن أختصر الموضوع بناء على شرح وبيان الشيخ آدم. فنجد أن ابن تيمية رحمه الله شيخ الإسلام قد بين لأمتنا من نهج السلف ومن نهج أئمة أهل السنة ومنهم الإمام أحمد هدي أهل السنة في مسألة التكفير، حتى من اعتقد في الله ما اعتقد كالجهمية على سبيل المثال. فاعتقاد الجهمية ودين الجهمية في الله كفر، ولكن هناك فرق بين الكفر وبين تكفير المعين. فقد يقع الإنسان في كلام كفر ولا يكفر، والسبب في ذلك الجهل أو الشبهة أو الخطأ، كالذي قال كما أخبر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اللهم أنت عبدي وأنا ربك، وضحك الله عز وجل. لم يكفر، بل ضحك الله عز وجل، لأنه قد قال ما قال بسبب فرحه وسبق لسانه. فالسني لا يكفر المعين إلا إذا تحققت الشروط وانتفت الموانع. فإذا علم بما يقول وانتفى عنه الجهل وانتفى عنه يعني ما كان يبعد فهم عن الفهم الصحيح، أي الشبهة وما شابه ذلك، كما صنع الإمام أحمد مع الخليفة. فما زال يدعو الإمام أحمد، وقد ناظر من ناظر أمام الخليفة، ولكن ما زال يعتذر للخليفة. لماذا يعتذر الخليفة؟ لأنه يرى أن الشبهة قائمة عنده ولم تزل. فالبعض يعتقد أن مجرد أنه يبين قد أجزأ، بل قد تكون الشبهة أعمق وأكبر وأوضح. لذلك كلام الله عز وجل بين ونزل على العرب، ومع هذا قد يأتي رجل ويقول عنه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يا عريض القفا، أي أن الواضح الأمر، ولكن وهو كلام الله عز وجل، إلا أن الاعتبار بالجهل والخطأ وموانع الفهم الصحيح معتبرة شرعا. فلذلك لا يكفر المعين إلا إذا تحققت الشروط وانتفت الموانع. وأرجو من الشيخ آدم أن يتم الدرس بعد هذا البيان، يترجم ما قلت، وإذا كانت هناك أسئلة تبعث إلى الشيخ آدم وأجيب عليها وترسل إن شاء الله لارتباطي حاليا. فأرجو منكم المعذرة، أرجو منكم المعذرة.
جزاكم الله خيرا.
والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jade. So the Shaykh Hafidhahullah, after praising Allah and sending salat wa salam upon the Messenger, he wanted to first apologize to the brothers for the shortness of the lesson that he had to do because of his circumstances, but he did not want to cut or break the good progress that we're making and miss a week, so he wanted to continue with that. So he said that he hoped the brothers recognized and benefited from what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah had mentioned from the stance of Imam Ahmad. And Imam Ahmad is an example of what the Imams of Ahl Sunnah were upon. So Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, that he faced such difficulty in his time with these rulers who were upon the way of the Jahmiyyah, as Shaykh Al Ibn Taymiyyah explained, that they were punishing the people, they were torturing the people, forcing the people to make the statement of kufr, of disbelief. And even though they were making that statement, they had these characteristics, that Imam Ahmad did not make takfir of them. He did not consider them to be kuffar. So this is a lesson of how Ahl Sunnah deal with the issue of general takfir, meaning when a statement or action would make somebody a disbeliever or leave the fold of Islam, as opposed to the issue of takfir al-mu'ayyan. This is when you are specifically talking about how that ruling applies to an individual. So regarding, or for it to apply to a specific individual, then the proofs have to be established in its conditions, and there also must not be anything preventing that takfir occurring upon that person. And this is an incredibly intricate issue. So the mawana, or the things that could prevent the ruling of disbelief applying to this specific individual, are many, such as ignorance, such as doubts, such as being confused, and the list goes on. So we have to look at this example of Imam Ahmad to benefit also the amount of time that passed with Imam Ahmad interacting with these rulers. And there were huge munadarat that were established, meaning the ruler established a debate where Imam Ahmad would clarify in front of the ruler, refuting the doubts of these Jahmiyyah. And even though this happened repeatedly, and Imam Ahmad clarified the Sunnah again and again, the rulers persisted upon that disbelief, the statements of disbelief, and Imam Ahmad still dealt with him as a Muslim. Imam Ahmad still dealt with them as Muslims. Because, and this shows that just because you clarify something one time or two times or three times, this doesn't mean that the doubt for that individual is necessarily removed. So this is something that the people of Sunnah need to stay away from. They need to be careful of declaring a specific individual to be a disbeliever, making that takfir of that specific individual. So this is what the Shaykh wanted to emphasize and focus on. If anyone has any specific questions related to the topic, you can go ahead and send it to me, inshallah, and we'll try and get the answers from the Shaykh once he's available, inshallah. Okay? Jazakumullah khairan, brothers. Have a great rest of your day, inshallah, and we'll continue next lesson. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.